Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Episode 8 of Ben 10 The Alliance features Ben having to face a new threat in the form of the newly introduced Rojo, or Rojo, how you pronounce it, while his grandpa is injured and stuck in the hospital. And it makes for a nice episode, one where Ben again continues to mature as he begins to realize how much danger his watch puts his family in. This makes sense as the plot for this episode because of the events of the preceding episodes. Ben has tended to view the watch in a positive way, but lately it's just gotten him into more trouble. In this specific instance, Vilgax has once again sent droids to capture the Omnitrix. Not like it worked the past few times he did this, but you do you, Vilgax. Now, you just know we're heading for a huge battle between Ben and Vilgax. Not only because the story is hinting at it, but also because this is a decade-old show, and we all know this from memory. Anyway, the droids combine with some punk, gothic, biker lady, voiced by Jennifer Hale, who was the one responsible for hurting Grandpa Max in the first place. She's a pretty weakly written character, in my opinion, as her only real draw is her character design. Otherwise, she's just a human version of the droids Vilgax has sent before. Actually, now that I think about it, the second interesting thing about her is probably her reluctance to do what Vilgax says. But since he threatens to kill her, she's forced to do his dirty work anyway. Again, she was the least interesting aspect of this episode. It's actually a relatively dark episode. Max is hurt, Ben's depressed and full of angst. It's quite a different episode than the first 7. With the recent footage of the upcoming reboot still in my head, it'll be interesting to see a more comedic version of this show. Either way, the darkness that pervades this episode works due to it being organic. I think the only negative thing about this episode was some of Ben's dialogue. I guess since he spent most of the series thus far being fairly jovial, it's almost jarring to see him go to a dark place. Wait until we get to Alien Force, am I right? Or maybe it just doesn't work for me because of Tara Strong. She's a talented voice actress, but her Ben voice isn't really suited for being angsty. Overall, it's a good episode, but it could have been better if some of the dialogue had been tweaked a bit, and we had a more exciting villain for Ben to face. Anyway, what did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hello lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon. Lucky Girl is probably the episode some of you have been waiting for me to get to, on account of it being the debut of Gwen's superhero identity, Lucky Girl. And I'll admit, I was excited too, because I always remembered loving the episodes where she becomes Lucky Girl. Weirdly enough, I don't actually recall seeing this episode though. I believe this is our first instance of the supernatural in Ben 10, and I think it's pretty cool, even if we don't get to see any reactions from the main characters about it. Generally, the past episodes have relied on science fiction, and it would have been interesting to see the characters tackle its existence alongside their more sci-fi adventures, but alas, we don't get to see that. What we do get is a pretty fun and magical episode featuring the debut of Hex, who we'll see at least a few more times in this series and in the sequels. I really dig his design and its whole voodoo flavor. At least that's what I'm getting from it, considering this episode takes place in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a little disappointed he never really comes off like a threat due to the powers of luck being on Gwen's side. Sure, Ben is taking the task along with some innocent bystanders, but it never feels like Hex was capable of beating them, which is sad because he looks so cool. I think he'll get some better episodes later in the series, or at least in the sequels, but his debut wasn't that great. He gets some cool moments, but in general, he almost feels like a joke when faced with Ben and Gwen. As for Gwen, I think this was the most I've cringed at the things she said or did.
How did you pull off this amazing rescue?
With style, of course. Who's your hero?
From a storytelling perspective, it makes sense to give her a chance to be a hero. She's helped Ben along with her grandpa multiple times throughout the series up to this point, but she's never gotten her share of the limelight like Ben does. So she obviously jumps at the chance when it's given, and proving she's very much related to Ben, she fails pretty hard at first. Too eager to prove herself, she forgets that you can't rely on luck all the time. And that was a really good thing to include because it helps contrast what she says earlier in the episode with what Ben really does.
All that stuff you did, it's not you, it's that charm.
It's not you either, it's that watch.
Sure, he wouldn't be much of a hero without his watch, but he actually does do the things he does. The aliens don't take over for him, he needs to learn and become skilled with each of them. So while yeah, she said some hilariously dumb things and embarrassed herself, ultimately I think this was a great Gwen episode. I think she learned a valuable lesson about being a hero and how, sure, sometimes the circumstances of you getting your powers is just plain old luck, you also need skill too. It actually reminds me of the fan who left a comment somewhere talking about how there may have been plans by Man of Action to do a spin-off series about Lucky Girl. I'd definitely watch that if I'm honest. So what I'm getting at is that I like the concept for this episode, but I do think parts of it could have been better written, especially in how Hex was portrayed. But what did you think about the episode? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and take care.